Can you use any font for the text meshes? And I presume, can you import fonts from your system?
Yeah, I imported this one. You could use any TTF and OTF, I believe. I think those are the two that are supported. There might be a couple of others. When I tried this in the alpha, I was getting errors with the rendering on some fonts. The normals weren't generating correctly. I don't know if that's been fixed. So I'm going to say qualified maybe.
Hey, you've just sparked something here. I'm just going to switch to both of us whilst I talk about this. So, one of the things that you can do once you can import fonts is not all fonts are letters. They can be symbols and pictures and things like that. Wingdings is a
Yes.
great example. But that means that you could import these symbols into your game, and therefore just using fonts themselves have like billboards within your city and other things like that to actually, rather than going off and modeling a little cocktail, I'm sure that is the little martini glass. I'm sure like that is one that you can actually get on Windings, and maybe some other icons as well. I need to have a look at that because that sounds like an absolutely fantastic way of adding a load of useful assets to your scene.
I mean, it's interesting you say that because I found something the other day when I was looking at resources. So let's go to our file system, and I'm going to go new resource.
So Miguelino, hope I've said that correctly, says, "Let's go, God 04." And he also says, "I want to thank you guys again for your course. It's allowed him to regained his will to be a game dev, especially
Hooray!
on Godot."
Excellent. I believe one of these font source data and pre-rendered glyph cache imported from a dynamic or bitmap font. Variation of the font. Okay, so you can load from a system font. Didn't know that. There is a way that you can generate a font from an image. I'm just not entirely sure what it is. In fact, let's take a quick search.
Oh, so you can import it directly into Godot. So it's a particular Godot feature?
I believe so. Like you can make a character map and import it, I think. I might have made that up. Font name, font style, base font. Yeah, I'll have to explore that. Basically, there's a few things that I haven't seen mentioned before. Also, there are render issues I'm still getting with the SDFGI. Specifically, I'm getting this error every frame.
It's an
And
interesting error.
it's not critical, and I think it's going to vanish. But again, this is a very, very simple game, which is why it's going to be one of the earlier lessons in God of For Everyone.
What's that, Jan? What's Godot for everyone?
I'm glad you asked me that, Mikey. Let's go to the time machine.
Boop. Okay,
Oh, I
we're
thought you had a time machine button. God for Everyone is the spiritual successor to Discovering Godot, dealing with Godot 4. We talked about it last week. You can find the little clips and recordings from it on our channel. And I don't have the image handy. So, Mikey, could you go get the image?
How did I do it last time? Oh, I just shared my screen with the image on it. That is super easy to do. I'll do that
now. And it's a course we're going to be doing in tandem with creating the Your Godot Action RPG project, which was the thing we ran on Kickstarter last year. God, is it already last year? Wow. It's not Discovering Godot redone for 4 because they're whole new projects. And the early 2D projects so far are all very retro style 2D games, classic 2D games, in fact. We have Space Invaducks and Pie Sweeper and Spooky Bricks.
Yeah.
But then when we got to 3D, I kind of wanted to, well, I guess this is a classic nostalgia game because this is the one that we're keeping from the previous one. We're just using different characters.
Yes, I'm really looking forward to this new dive into Godot For Everyone. It's going to be a beginner's course, and we'll give you more information once it gets a bit more solid. Yeah.
One thing I'm not planning on covering for this, before someone else asks, is online multiplayer, because that is not a beginner subject, and it kind of needs its own.
Well, there was a reason why we developed Godot Getaway, was
Yeah.
specifically to cater for that online
I mean, something
need.
like God of Getaway, or even to be honest, Mag Racer in God of 4 would make a lot of sense. And even just on our battle tactics game, which was a is a thing we're developing for Steam, and it's currently in hiatus while we're waiting for our own personal Steam key, so I can actually start putting it there. And I
Yeah.
might try putting it onto God of 4 just to see how it looks. Um, the amount of complexity you add with online multiplayer is no joke. I mean, just basic things that you wouldn't even think of, like who hears the sound and why, starts becoming a whole exploratory thing.
There's a
Meanwhile,
great example with that. So you fire a simple one, first person shooter. You fire a gun.
mhm,
For you, you need to send a signal to the server that you fired your gun. It needs to send a signal to everybody else so they can have the flash appear on their screen and the sound play on their screen with delay or whatever. But when that signal comes back to your computer, you don't want to hear the fact that you fired the gun and see the flash again. So you need to play all of those resources locally to yourself, and you then ignore that coming back from the server. That's a great example of how you need to really think carefully when you're implementing things
so
in a multiplayer game.
just to give an idea of why this gets complicated, a multiplayer game is kind of an illusion in the sense that when I'm playing Left 4 Dead 2 with Mikey, which is something we've been doing recently, it feels like we're both in the same space, right? I don't mean he and I mean our characters. But what's actually happening is my computer has a version of the game, and his computer has a version of the game. And when I move a character, the fact that I have moved is sent to Michael, and my character on his screen is moved by that much. But we both have the same thing. If anything goes out of sequence, we're going to start seeing zombies in the wrong place, someone walking through a wall, ammunition not showing up. Like that's when you start getting really weird behavior. And it's really easy to miss something or send something at the wrong time or bottleneck your entire system. So
And we've seen that ourselves. We've had rubber
mm,
banding and everything else where our internet connections just drop out slightly. And there are mitigation strategies for that, but
yep.
it's not a beginner topic. That's the main thing there.
And I can show some of the projects we've got so far, if people want to see them. And there's all kinds of fun things to look at in this version of Godot. One of which is, am I using Tweens in this?
I'm
I
not
actually
sure. I'm
can't
going to
remember.
switch back to your screen now so we can see what
Yeah,
you're seeing.
I'm going to see if I'm using Tweens. I think I am. I'm not using Tweens anywhere. Huh. All right. So previously in Godot 3.x, if you wanted to use a tween, right, you go to the nodes and you type in tween. There's no tween node because tween is now a whole new thing. Let's say we're going to make a new function and we're going to call it tween the thing. I don't know what we're going to tween, but we're going to tween the thing. Okay. I'm going to make a new variable. I'm going to call it tween.
So is this
And
the name of a song on our new album?
sure. And now I need to tell it what this variable tween is. It is the object that comes back when I run create tween. Now, beforehand, you would have to do this. Tween.interpolate property, and you'd have to go what object is doing it, and you'd have to go the node path of the thing, and you'd have it just got huge, right? It ended up being something like 10 or 12 things you'd have to remember to put in. Now, here's how you do it. Interpolate value. What value are we interpolating? Let's say, in fact, let's just open it here. Initial variant, delta value, elapsed time. Great, let's do this. Initial value variant. Let's go with scenery floor. Oh no, I mean scene floor.
Close.
Oh, you know what? You just come over here. I make it such a pig's ear of this. One more time. There we go. Okay. So we are interpolating something on that, and we're going to get its scale. and it's going to go over 1 second. Sorry, it's going to go immediately over 1 second, and it's going to be linear. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We need one more thing, and we're going to ease out. And that runs the tween, right? So that just does it. On top of that, we can run parallel tweens. We can run them in sequence. We can run a signal from the tween is finished and do something else. It's a lot more variety and control with much less code. I'm going to get rid of this because it's not actually going to do anything that we want. But
Yeah, that's got that's got the potential of being able to produce some basic animations in your level, perhaps something appearing, disappearing.
So usually if I want to animate something, I will use an animation player. The reason I will use a tween is when I don't know what the beginning and end values for something are going to be.
You just
Right?
want it to move between two different states.
Exactly. So wherever you are right now, you need to go over there over half a second.
Excellent.
If I did that with an animation player, it would go from 0, 0 to 0, 1, for example, no matter where I was. So if I was over at 4, 3 and I press go on the animation, it would teleport to 0, 0 and go to 0, 1, which is not what I want. So tween is great when you're going between two values that you don't know yet. Animation player is great when you do know them. So for instance, we've got the scoreboard animation and it's just a pulse, right? I know what the values are going to be. They're going to be the same every time
And so you could just repeat that over and
because
over.
I know the beats per minute and I've done the math. In fact, I didn't. I looked up a beat per minute that would have 2 beats every second, and then I just found a song that would do that and did a
Yeah.
half-second pulse.